Well, thank you so very much. I certainly appreciate that. Thank you for the time, and I'll make it as worthwhile as I possibly can. Thank you very much, witnesses, and thank you to the committee for allowing me to speak. You know, my riding of Essex sits very, very closely to the busiest international border in North America, and uh, the movement of goods, commerce, if you will, truly goes hand in hand with the movement of people. So what I mean by that is we here in Windsor, Essex, manufacturing, auto, um, space industry, um, we are losing business, we are losing jobs, hand over fist. And earlier on, one of the witnesses, and forgive me, I forget who it was, had mentioned that there's a process in place at the border, and I'm not sure if that process is really very strong. So what's happening is because we cannot get our American counterparts onto our shop factory floors in Windsor, Essex to look at a part. What happened just last week is they literally took a seat, an electric seat, out of a car and had to ship it over to Canada, which takes days. So we're losing contracts. My question is, has there been any discussion between Canada and the U.S. governments with regard to broadening the definition of the contractual obligation? So our Canadian industries, manufacturing companies are losing business because they are under contractual obligation to have folks, people from the US come to the shop floors, look at the part, approve it to the tune of maybe 2 hours, and then go back home and not wait in quarantine for 14 days. I believe they should be essential. And I'm wondering if there's any discussion between really broadening that definition. And we're not asking about busting the borders open, but to broaden it to allow for the contractual obligation. I would just ask either witness to please respond to that.
Maybe I'll take a crack, and then Steve, if you want to come in. Thank you very much for the question. As Steve mentioned earlier, since the border measures were put in place, they included provisions to allow the essential workers and essential goods to continue. This includes moving goods back and forth across the border. Um, at the same time, I think your point is very well taken that there's obviously some companies that have been affected, haven't been able to have visitors come in, technicians to come in. And that's something that I know we have looked at. But and I do know that in some instances there have been some provisions made of where it's gotten to the point of national interest, where there's been a need for technicians to come in. There are some provisions available to allow that to happen. I'll give you one example in that regard. It doesn't perhaps fit exactly where yours, but it might serve to illustrate it. Canada, of course, is an aerospace leader, and there are, whether it is the production of airplanes or whether it is simulators, in Canada is the only place where some of this can be acquired. So those folks who need those services or who are acquiring those products had to come into Canada, and there have been exceptions made away from the 14-day quarantine. I can't speak to exactly the examples that you raised, but there have been instances to allow that to happen. I think last comment I'll make is the arrangement with the United States, as everyone knows, has been reviewed on a monthly basis and has been extended every month. And now the additional provisions about Canadians or people entering Canada having to go through testing is in place until April 30th. These are measures that are reviewed on a regular basis, and I think everyone wants to see them eliminated as soon as possible, but it will be very much guided by the science and guided by those experts who will be able to tell us when the time is right to begin to relax them. But your point is very well noted in terms of the critical industries and the need to get access to specific people in order to keep sales moving.
Thank you. And I know I'm going to run out of time here, Mr. Chair. Can you just give me an idea of how much time I have left?
40 seconds.
Thank you. So thank you very much for the answer. I appreciate that. So we're talking to the tune of somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 to 300 individuals. What I'm talking about locally, and I'm trying to look from 100,000 feet, but locally 200 to 300 individuals to save $100 million worth of economy of commerce trade as an example. And so I really think we need to focus very strongly on how we can not only save jobs, create the economy, but this is not these people need to be, in my opinion, need to be deemed essential. I used to work in the United States myself. I had an L1A visa for years, and there's about 8 to 10,000 visas out there that are being affected. So it's very serious, and we need to hit it with a really big baseball bat. So thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for indulging me with this time.